You're listening to Business Lunch with Roland Frasier. This is your seat at the table.
Hey everybody, Roland Frasier here with the Business Lunch podcast, and very happy today to have my friend Brad Costanzo. And Brad, welcome to the show.
It is an honor to be on the show, and looking forward to having the tables turned on me.
I love it. Yeah, I was on your show. Was it like about 6 years ago, I think? And then it aired last week.
More like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, and it'll be coming out in a year.
I love it. I love it. Would you, just for everybody who is listening or watching, kind of share who you are and what you're doing these days, and then we'll kind of talk about whatever happens to come up?
Yeah, happy to. So for the past 12 years, I've been involved in the world of more digital entrepreneurship. I've been in financial services. I was a consultant back in the day. And then about 12 years ago, right in 2008, I started my business because nobody else was hiring in financial services. So I decided to get into digital marketing. And I started an information product business and then a little software business as well at the same time.
Did you have a dating thing for a while?
It was a dating thing. So interestingly, at the time I had read 2 books at the same month, The 4-Hour Workweek, which talked about how it's, among other things, how it's possible to sell information online. And I was like, especially if it's a niche, tiny little niche product. And I was like, well, that's cool. But here I was about 32 years old and career in financial services. And I was okay at it, but I didn't necessarily feel like I was a super expert at that. And I didn't know really what I would be an expert at. At the same time, I read the book, The Game, all about pickup artists and by Neil Strauss. And it was a New York Times bestselling book. And I was still dating my current wife, Kenya, at the time. So I never considered myself a pickup artist. But in that book, I noticed an opportunity that I took advantage of where he talked about using magic tricks at bars to pick up girls, but he never talked about which ones he used to pick up girls. I knew about 24 tricks that I used to win bar bets and drinking games, the little magic tricks, not cards. And I Googled after that, pickup artist magic tricks, and nothing came up. And I remember thinking, man, if that product existed, I would totally buy it, but nobody's selling it. So having just read The 4-Hour Workweek and not knowing what else I was going to do, my partner at the time and I just decided, well, let's try it and see what happens. So I created a little page for a product, and I wrote the sales page that I've never written a sales page before for I would buy this if it existed. And then I just did the click here to buy it, and it opted them in and it just says, hey, coming soon. Thanks for letting me know. Bought some Google ads toward it just to say, well, let's see if anybody's interested. And pretty soon I had a list of 600 people who were saying, yes, I want this.
That's great.
So I was like, well, I guess I'll create it. So this product was me in my living room doing magic tricks, saying, tearing up a dollar bill and then making it restore. And I was like, imagine I'm in a bar. Imagine I'm talking to a girl. Imagine this is what she says and this is what I would say. And I still can't believe that it did as well as it did, because it did about $500,000 in sales my best year.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and with no paid traffic, low search volume, I just did some really creative affiliate and joint venture relationships, and I just piggybacked on everybody else in the market because I had a little niche product that didn't really compete with them. But yeah, I was selling to the dating advice niche, but I never sold actual dating advice. I just told guys how to not look like an idiot.
I did not know that it was the magic trick thing. That's super fun.
Yeah. I guess my lesson there was really just paying attention to the opportunities and looking for that blue ocean, which is, all right, well, I wonder if somebody else I would buy this. Would somebody else buy it? Let's validate it and try to carve off a new piece of a market. So,
and you used Tim Ferriss's advice in the 4-Hour Workweek of dry testing basically before to see if there was demand, which I think is super smart as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny. Years later, Neil Strauss had me speak at one of his mastermind events, and I told the story about how the genesis of this. And I was like, page 48 or whatever it was, you said this. And then he said, did you ever call me or contact me to promote this? And I was like, no, I was so scared you were going to come out with the exact same product that it kicked my butt to get it done, because I was always expecting you to be nipping at my heels. He goes, man, I would have promoted that. I was like, I missed a big opportunity.
I know your long game, Neil. You come out with the big, dating book, but that page 48 stuff, that was what you were setting everybody up for.
That's right. So awesome. Anyway, I sold that business back in 2012, moved to San Diego to start over. And I didn't just want to start a new info product or something. I didn't know what else I wanted to sell. So a good friend of mine was our mutual friend, Drew Canoli, and he had a budding health and fitness business. So I looked at one of the things he was doing and I just said, hey, I've got some ideas for you. You mind if I try to help you out? Just pay me a percentage if it works. And it had to do something about like book publishing or whatnot. And it worked. It made a whole bunch of money. We partnered on that. And then he kind of brought me on to continue to consult with him. And then I just started to get introduced to other entrepreneurs out here in San Diego. And I just started to work with them as a consultant. So really over the past 7 years since I sold my business, I've been consulting with a handful of startups in between, like an e-com business, which I credit you for getting me out of that day at lunch where you posed a question. Long story short, I had a private label coffee business, and I'd been in it for about 10 months, and I think I was losing money. I was probably losing like $500 a month on it. And I was like, I just don't know what to do. And you asked me the question, if this was a client, would you keep them? Like, would you take them as a client? And I was like, well, I'm actually, they're not paying me any money right now. So no. And you're like, well, what if they were? What if they were paying you like $5,000 and maybe even 50% of the business? And I was like, I don't know. And then you said the question that made me just go, yeah, you're right, which was, well, and they wanted you to spend your entire day working on them. I was like, God, Roland. So I said right then and there, I was like, okay, I'm going to put it to the side. You're right. The opportunity cost is too big. And I don't know if I ever told you this, the very next day, I got an email from a guy I had met once. He listened to my podcast and he said, hey, it sounds like you're doing consulting, which I had quit in order to get this off the ground. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what do you got in mind? And he said, I'm in this space, the real estate investor space that I know you've got experience in, and I could really use your help. And I was like, sure. You got a couple of options here. You can, one, just, I forget what option one was, but option two is just fly down to San Diego. Let's spend an entire day together for 10 grand and we can map out your strategy. And if you want to continue to work with me, awesome. And if not, no big deal. And he said, can I have a day and a half? I was like, sure, I'll give you a break. Like 12.5 for a day and a half of consulting. Yes. And I had actually never charged that much money for a single day of consulting, but I just decided, why not? Nice. That was my first one of those 3 years ago. And he went on to retain me for about $10,000 a month for approximately the next 2.5 years. And it worked out tremendously well. But I just remember at that moment thinking about how many bags of coffee I would have to sell to put $10,000 into my pocket as pure profit. And
yeah, after the cost of the coffee, it's a lot. Yes.
A whole lot of coffee. So anyway, I credit you for allowing the universe to bless me with an opportunity the very next day.
That's so cool.
Yeah. 2 weeks later, I ended up working with Jesse Itzler, helping to kind of manage his personal brand and strategic marketing. And it was just like a couple things right after the other. Right after I released that, it allowed really good things to happen. So.
I did not, maybe you don't have my current address, but the royalty, like the checks for the consulting, that I gave you there, those 3 questions, priceless really, but I mean, I don't want to put a value on them. I mean, 50% of what you make is fine. That's great though. That's really cool. So, yeah. So is consulting the main gig right now?
So there's 2 things, consulting and, thanks to a lot of the influence of yours, acquisitions. So I've done some deals in the past. I'm kind of a deal maker by trade. When I had success with my magic trick site, it was really from just doing deals with all the people who had the customer list and assets that I wanted. And I set up a syndicate type mastermind for the entire industry. And I put myself in the middle of it so I could build relationships with people so they would always say yes to promoting my stuff. Right. And then throughout the course of my consulting career, I ended up getting most of my consulting clients by doing deals with them. Sometimes they were performance-based deals, et cetera, and licensing deals. And that's just kind of the way I think. It's like very J. Abraham-esque, like there's, who I know you know very well.
Yeah.
And then a couple years ago, literally right during our podcast or right after our podcast together where I interviewed you, I had a podcast listener reach out to me who had an e-commerce business and wanted to sell. And I made we almost bought that, but I ended up making a really expensive mistake on that. I'm sorry, a really profitable mistake. I ended up walking away from the deal, but I still made $120,000 on a failed acquisition. Could have made more. And then about 2 years ago, using another one of your strategies, I purchased a website called Homebrew Academy. And we just, by the way, just today, we got my two partners, Joe and Matt, who you know well, got the final payment on the installment for the sale of the business.
Nice.
So that just came in. So we are now.
Is that a no money deal?
That I bought? Yes.
Yeah.
So that was 100% owner financing.
I'm going to say, how did you do it?
So it was a friend of mine said, hey, I know you've sold a business in the past. Can you talk to my buddy, Billy, who has also got a business he's looking to sell, and he just kind of wants some friendly advice. And I said, I'm more than happy to give friendly advice. And what is it you say? And it's worth everything you pay me for.
It is, yes.
And I just started to tell him, like, it was a small business, sub 6 figures, but still, I was just giving him the things that buyers are going to look for and not look for, et cetera. And I just said, well, if you were to sell your business today, like, what would you take for it? And he gave me a number. And it was actually a low enough number based on the valuation. It was a good deal. And I said, literally, I didn't get on the phone with you to buy this business. Just wanted to help you out, but I'll pay you that if you're willing to take. I'll just pay you out over the next 12 months, just in equal installments. And he said, yeah, done. Nice. So then I said, going back to our interview together, which if you want to link to it, like, because you gave me the advice on this, I said, all right, well, how do I do what I now know you call integrator equity? How do I find two people who actually may want to run this business and maybe pay me for the opportunity to run it? So I called our mutual friends, Joe and Matt, who are home brewers and great content marketers, and they bought into the business. But the lesson learned is that we bought such a small business that the opportunity cost once more got the best of us, because it wasn't quite making enough money to hire a full-time person to just run with it and pay it out of the proceeds of the company. And
they weren't truly integrators. In that they weren't going to work in the business as their thing because they had too many other gigs. They were kind of like integrator invest operators. It was
exactly
right. They were going to do some marketing.
Yeah. And we all were like, all right, let's at least devote 4 hours a week to this, right? 4-hour work week. We can do that. Right. The problem is we didn't have 4 hours of quality time per week, and the opportunity cost of working on that versus our own businesses got the best of us. Mm-hmm. So one of the lessons I learned is if I'm going to buy a business and do a deal, buy one that's big enough to fund all the things that need to happen. So we hired an SEO guy to come in, and the deal I made with him was, we didn't even have ads on our site. Weren't even running ads. Like, we were just so lazy to put ads on there, which, like, we're idiots. So we put them on there.
Think of the taxes you would have had to pay on the revenue.
I hate those taxes. So so what we did is I was like, all right, we found a good SEO guy. Like, I can't afford to pay you money out of the company. It's not making quite enough, but I'll put the ads on there, and you can have 100% of the advertising, the banner ad income to run the SEO. And he's like, done. So that was paying him like $500 a month. And then he came in and bought the site from us and closed it out. So
I like the scrappiness of the deal, though. It's like, right? It's like, each step along the way, which is great. And you got in for nothing, and it's kind of a fun, cool deal. And the other deal, which didn't happen, I don't know if I know how you ended up turning that into the 120K. So that sounds like a great story. You want to kind of relive the whole deal? Was pretty cool.
I love the deal. It was so he manufactures patented and really cool brand of gun holsters for the conceal and carry market, and, which I know nothing about. But when he told me that he had 200,000 customers that he'd never, ever emailed, and that all of his advertising was coming from magazine ads,
and lots of dealers that were pestering him, and he was like, I'm not going to ever let you put my stuff in your shop.
Yeah. There was so many opportunities. And he approached me asking, because his brother was a podcast listener. He said, hey, I think Brad can help you with digital marketing. But the minute he told me that, when I got on the phone with him, I stopped and I said, well, let me ask a question. Have you ever thought about selling the business? Do you want to be in this business? And he said, I would love to. I tried to sell it a year ago and it fell through. I was like, okay, I might be interested in buying it. And then I had negotiated 100% owner financing for 80% of the business. And he said yes. And it was actually when I showed it to you and you walked away, you're like, yeah, I don't know if we really want this. I went back to him and I was like, Roland decided to walk away for XYZ reasons. And honestly, yeah, your revenues are down from last year. I don't want to catch a falling knife, and any money I would put in, I would rather invest that in marketing if we have to,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we can grow it and sell it for 3 times what it's worth right now. Do you want to participate in that? And he said, yes. So I was like, okay, and then what I told him, I looked at his salary, and I know that the year before he was paying himself $40,000 a month. And then this year he'd been paying himself $20,000 a month. So I said, if I were to increase your salary by 50% and pay you $30,000 a month for the next 3 years and you retain 20% ownership, would you do a 100% owner financing deal? And he said, yes. I was like, all right, cool. Now we got a plan. Mm-hmm. So I go through due diligence, and I am so worried that I don't know what I don't know and that I'm going to miss something. My due diligence took me a while. In that time, he stopped doing magazine ads and he started doing all Facebook advertising. And it was working. He was getting a 6-to-1 return on ad spend, and he was advertising to a 190 million person audience in the US. He basically just said everybody, and he was getting 6-to-1. And I'm like, oh my God, why did I tell him Facebook ads? Because I don't own it yet. But he comes back to me a month before we're supposed to close, and he says, my wife and my CPA or my lawyer says, you need to have skin in the game. I need 10% down. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can do that. But then I noticed that all of his traffic is coming from Facebook ads, and all of his ads have a gun in a holster on.
I was going to say, I can't believe that he was able to run them.
I can't either. So I could just foresee myself saying, okay, here's $100,000 down. And
Facebook says the next day,
Facebook says, you're out of here. Now, and I told him, I was like, that's my big risk. And I said, you have a potential insurance policy that could be worth a lot of money, but it could be worthless. You have 200,000 customers that you've never emailed. That's either great or it's hard, because you don't just blast out a 5-year-old customer list without knowing what you're doing. So I said, here's what I'll do. Normally I would do this as a consulting thing, but I'll just let me have that as a profit center. I'll create a new profit center for you. Just give me 20% of the gross sales of your e-com business, which is like 50% of net.
Yeah. And
pay me 50% of anything that the list does on the, like if we sell somebody else's products, or if I create something new, I get 50%, like a digital. And he says, done.
Right.
Done. Month 1, I sent out 6 emails to half his list. They all said the exact same thing, which is, hey, you want 20% off? And I was responsible for 40% of his revenue that month. Wow. And I made $25,000 in payment that month personally. Nice. I was like, Jesus. Nice. Now that happened for the next 6 months until he tells me, hey, I just sold my business. And he never told me. So it was about $120,000 a month where my mistake was. And I know I made this mistake because I was exhausted from due diligence, which was I could have easily done a deferred down payment like you teach. I could have easily just said, yes, I'll pay for it out of the proceeds of this. I could have easily said, yeah, I'll do it, but give me a first right of refusal to buy your business, or let me have an option on it. And there's so many ways I could have locked that business up that I didn't. And when I was going through your epic training recently and all the ways to make that, I'm like, oh, I'm banging my head going, look at all the ways that I missed out on that. But I made 120 grand.
Did you have a written agreement on the e-commerce email marketing thing?
Yeah.
So even though he sold the business, you would still have the rights to do that. How did you deal with that?
I just let him sell the business, and I'm like, all right, go for it. Like,
because the person that bought the business would still get the benefit of what you were doing, but you still have the right to do that. So
they didn't want to continue on with me, even though they saw the results. So I asked him that. I was like, hey, let him know. There's a lot of mistakes I made in that were, the spoonful of sugar was the consulting revenue I made and the lessons I learned.
Yeah.
But
it was a really cool deal. I mean, it was, you made money out of it. I love how you turned it into something that, even though it did not turn out to be a deal you wanted, you turned it into something else, which I think is pretty cool.
Correct. Yeah. So that worked out well. And then right now, and I'll even explain how that deal helped me just get equity in a new e-commerce business that I'm working on the consulting agreement as we speak. So a few months ago, I was on a Zoom interview where it was just a handful of random entrepreneurs just kind of sharing best practices. And I think I told this story I think I told a similar story and how my email marketing on that really worked. And there was a guy on the Zoom webinar who has an e-commerce business. And I'll actually tell a little bit more of the story, but he heard me say that. And then we hooked back up and he's like, well, maybe you can help me with the email marketing on my business. And turns out I can help him with a lot more stuff. So I negotiated a nice minority percentage of his business for consulting. So telling those stories ends up helping, it's like a chain reaction.
It does. I love it.
And then the last thing, because you had said, what am I up to? Once more, this is also as a result of kind of connecting some dots after your training, which was really awesome. I know everybody who knows you has been wanting you to put together something like this on your version of creative deal making and acquisitions for a long time. But one of the hardest parts for me is I've always been very industry agnostic. I don't have one industry that I've like, oh my gosh, I want to acquire a business or do deals in this. It's much more about the situation, the deal, et cetera. And then I remembered about a year ago, I had been talking to one of my best friends, and he's in Nevada and he owns an IT services business. And it's a small, but extremely profitable, well-run business, extremely profitable. And he works about 3 hours a month on it. And I was like, a year ago, I had asked him, have you ever thought about acquiring other IT service businesses? You should really look into this, because if you know how to do it, that's a great way to grow. And he ignored it. Then we were talking again about a couple months ago, and I think I texted you after this, and I reiterated the opportunity here. And he said, I'd be down for that. I'm so bored and unengaged in my business. It just runs well, but this sounds really exciting. So now I started to think, if I can use my deal acumen or, what I'm building of that with an operational partner who understands the industry and and the actual business side of that. Mm-hmm. And if we can potentially put together an interesting roll up or acquisition strategy in that space, that we might be onto something. So that is what I have been on the side working on getting ramped up. So that's an exciting industry from some of the people I've talked to.
What was the space? What's the industry?
IT services, managed service provider, IT service and security.
Yeah. No, it's a very, very hot market. So that's pretty cool.
I talked to one guy who you may know, but he said in private equity right now, that's one of the 3 hottest white hot markets. He said that for roll-ups, he said IT services, independent veterinary services, and dentist offices are really, really hot because they're so fragmented.
Yeah.
So we're pursuing that. It's early stages. I am, trying to wrap my head around a lot of the things that go into that, but realizing I have resources and, education and contacts like yourself to always help. But
probably need a really good advisor, on your advisory board for that.
I know. Hey, do you know somebody?
I mean, let me check my list.
Make a referral. So that's a lot of it. But yeah, the consulting helps feed potential deals, and deals help feed potential consulting, and they work really well together. The consulting fuels my entrepreneurial ADD, and it allows me to handle different projects. But this new deal that I'm working on, which if Shane, my now business partner, is listening, as I said, we had a great call, and I used another Roland strategy to manipulate him into giving me a part of his company, which is just to give him free, heartfelt, the best advice I possibly could without expecting anything in return, and just trying to help him grow. And if he wanted to take it and run with it and then just thank me or not later, he could. But it turned into a really good relationship. He kind of kept coming back, and he's a guy I really want to work with. He's a really cool dude with a great business, and I think I have some ideas that I think could really help scale it up. So I said, well, there's an opportunity for us to work together if you think that there is room in your company for some equity. And he said, yeah, let's work that out. So
congratulations. That's super cool.
Thank you very much.
Nice. Now, so it's really interesting because the consulting thing to me is consulting into deals is a really good, it's a really great way to get deals. And so for years and years and years, I did just give free, no expectation. I still will do that, but I can't do it as much as I used to because, you run out of time. And so I just started, actually never had charged paid consulting, just like you mentioned. And I just started in November of last year thinking about it as I was setting goals for 2020 and said, I'm going to I have too many people that don't do anything. And so if I charge, then it's going to weed out the people that don't do anything, and it'll be more serious people. It'll be bigger companies that have, more to work with. And so I started charging first of the year and have done, several, way more than I ever imagined, because I just, like, people would hit me up on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. And, I'd say it's this much for a half day and expect it just to never happen. And the very first time I did it, the guy's like, "Where do I wire the money?" And I was like,
Yeah.
Weird, but cool. And
real quick on that, one of my close friends, and he's mentored me a lot. You know Mitch Axelrod?
I know him, but not super close.
So he told me years ago, an amazing response, especially if somebody says, "Hey, can I ask for your advice, or can I pick your brain?" And he says, "Sure. Do you just want my friendly advice or my professional opinion?"
I like that.
Right. And I think you can understand where that would go. Oh, well, my friendly advice, and you just give it off the top. Almost everybody asks for your professional opinion, and that gives you the opportunity to say, "Well, that's great. I've got a program or whatever. I've got a way for you to do that." So I can see you using that a lot.
Yeah, I like that a lot,
because it allows you to still help without asking.
What I do is still, I basically say, look, I am happy to help you during any free time I have. Right now, I don't have any free time. I only have time for my paying clients. So if you want my focused attention, then, I have a program for that. And otherwise, whenever, just shoot me your question, and whenever I get some free time, I'm happy to try to answer it. And that usually, is, and I will, I am happy during my non-committed time to do that. It's just, I don't have a lot of it lately. Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering though, is, cause I launched the Epic thing, which is Ethical Profits in Crisis. And now I'm playing with the name of it, but because of how the consulting thing has just taken off, I really want to, and it flows into the equity deals, like you were talking about, where you trade your services for a piece of company. And I'd like to go deeper into that. So I'm thinking about having another challenge, either hopefully the end of this month, that will be on consulting. I'm kind of playing with the names. It's like, is it Mega Make Entrepreneurship Great Again? Is it, what can it be?
I wouldn't go that way. You probably,
but I think it's that sounds too close to other political things. So it'll be interesting to see, but I'd love to know, if you were starting from scratch today, what would you do to get your first 5 clients as fast as possible?
Well, it's funny. Like, I always feel as though I'm starting from scratch. I don't know why that is, but I always feel, who is it that said every day is day one? You have an
amazing network.
Right. Somebody out there, I don't know if it's like Peter Thiel or Elon, it's like every day, or it's Amazon, Jeff Bezos says every day is day one.
Day one,
right?
yeah.
So I kind of feel like that. And I think I would probably find the people you can help the most, right? If you can, like, what situation they're in. And this is
Give me an example.
Yeah. So Frank Kern has my favorite way to think about this, which is, what characteristics would your ideal client have to have so that working with them would be such a no-brainer that you would be willing to charge after the deal is done, right? And that, to me, that makes it's a lot easier than saying what industry are they in or what problem do they have or whatever. But it's like, what are those ideal situations? So for me, somebody like that e-com business who had a good brand, tons of momentum, like a multi-million-dollar revenue stream, a big list that had not been exploited, if you would, taken advantage of, who was not capitalizing on all the various channels. Like, I just saw so many opportunities to help somebody like that. So I started to go through, like, what are those characteristics that I would want to help somebody with? And it would typically be somebody who's doing $1 million in revenue, probably to about 1 to 20 is probably somewhat of a sweet spot. Mm-hmm. That is not taking advantage of multiple channels of marketing, or is just kind of they're doing things right, but they're not doing things well. And I don't know if that's the right way to say that, and then reaching out to them and which I've done in the past, would just say, hey, I noticed this. I think that, like, just offering them an idea that can kind of help them out. I think this would be really, try this. And actually, James Altucher mentioned this on your podcast. Send somebody like 10 ideas to help them out. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I love that. And I messaged James. We've talked in the past a few times. So I messaged him and I was like, hey, can you give me some examples on that? Because I love that. And he rattled off a whole bunch of them. And he's like, I can't tell you how many people I've gotten in touch with just by giving them great ideas on ways to improve their business.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the very first things I would do if you're inclined to have good ideas. I kind of think of myself as an ideation specialist in a lot of areas.
Yeah, you do.
That's probably what I would end up doing. That's probably what I need to do. I need to take my own advice, right? But
depends on what you want. Sounds like you got a lot of stuff going now, right?
That's probably my biggest problem is too many irons in the fire as always.
So how do you scale you?
Trying to remind myself daily to, like you always say, stay off the organizational chart as much as possible and try to be either the conductor of the orchestra or maybe even the producer of the show. Yeah. I was thinking of that the other day. I was like, I just need to conduct the orchestra. I don't need to be playing the instrument. I was like, well, wait a minute, you know who makes more than the conductor? It's the producer of the show. Yeah. So one step removed. And I think that's the key is just getting your circle of influence of the right people who can do the right things and set the vision and try to get them to help execute on the things that you can. I think that's the only way I can scale me, for instance. Yeah. And I know, for instance, on the acquisition business model that, I faced a lot of imposter syndrome thinking, oh man, this is like going against big potential competitors or big players or people who know more about business than I do. And I just had to kind of step back and remind myself that, all right, I know I have really good relationships with every single person I need to have in order to make this work. Just leverage those. Don't try to be an expert in every little aspect. Like quit that. Cause I tend to try to go deep and learn everything I can about everything so that I feel comfortable. Yeah. And I just have to remember it's not what I know. It's, how can I access the people who know what to do? So I don't know if that answers the question, but.
Yeah, no, I like it. It's I don't know if I had this in the one that you were in, but it's getting above the business, right? Not working,
you totally did.
Yeah, not working in it or on it, but actually above it. That's the place that, which is where the producer is. The producer's above the producers, thinking about how do I find the right relationships and investors and that kind of stuff, as opposed to the conductor who's still selling the widgets effectively. He's managing the employees who are, manufacturing the widget, which in that case is music, right?
Right. For somebody like me, because I like to get my hands dirty. I enjoy, I'm a really good tactician. I can get in, I can write sales copy, I can build pages, I can do all this stuff.
It can be limiting.
Very. And I have to remind myself that, man, it's like the things that got you, it's not that the things that got you here won't get you there. It's the things that got you here, if you continue to, will keep you from getting to the next level. It's not, they'll like prevent it. And I catch myself doing that all the time. So it's a constant battle to remind myself, step away from the
business.
Yeah. Well, and what I did recently for the past few months, I've been really working on this. I guess you would call it a creative visualization and meditation exercise where to keep it brief, I really imagine this future idealized version of myself showing up. Like I try to imagine him materializing, in my chair, and it's not who he is, it's how he is. He is exactly who I want to be. He's already done this stuff. It's the ideal mentor because he's me. And I allow him to tell me, Brad, stop that. Like if I catch myself doing something I shouldn't, I allow him to go, I didn't get where I am by you doing that stuff.
Right.
And it's been a very, very effective way for me to kind of either get the confidence I need to do what I need to do, or to remind myself like, hey, stop that. Like it's my own little personal coach who visits me from the future.
I like that. It's pretty cool. I like it.
So it's been a fun exercise.
Well, I know I could chat with you all day long. You got so many cool things to talk about, but so that we can show people how to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to reach out and connect with you?
Well, if they like the soothing sounds of my radio voice, they can always tune in to my podcast, Bacon Wrapped Business with Brad Costanzo. They can find it on all the various channels, or just go to baconwrappedbusiness.com, or just visit bradcostanzo.com as just my general page for jumping off to see all of the various things that, I'm kind of up to besides just the podcast. But that's the best way to reach me. Or if they just want to shoot me an email to brad@bradcostanzo.com, I'm happy to entertain any ideas.
And for those that are listening but not seeing anything, can you spell Costanzo just so that they know?
Costanzo.
Nice. Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure as always.